Hello, everyone, and welcome to the showdown between the Empire, led by Balthazar Gelt, and the Vampire Counts, who are going to be led by Manfred von Karstein. So we are back at it again with our Balthazar Gelt and Double Witch Hunter build. So if you look at Balthazar and you want to try this build out, it's very good at taking out factions that don't really have healing. So if you're facing off against Dark Elves, well, I guess they do have Soul Stealer, but Beastmen, Warriors of Chaos, and just kind of these factions that don't really have Lore of Life or Lore of Vampires or things like that, it can be extremely powerful. So on Balthazar Gelt, you need to bring the Staff of Valance and the Arcane Conduit. If you pop them both at the same time, you actually get 1 Winds of Magic per second. I think it's 1 per 1, which is very strong. So what you do with that is you just simply overcast a Final Transmutation. And it did get nerfed back in Total War Warhammer 1. It was actually even stronger back then, but it got nerfed, but it's still very good. So if you overcast a single Final Transmutation on Manfred von Karstein, for example, it's probably going to bring him down to like 50%, 60%. I'm not really sure off the top of my head. It really depends on the magic resist of the unit and several other factors there, but for the most part, very, very strong stuff. On top of that, you bring 2 Witch Hunters. So the Witch Hunters, as you guys know, do have the Accusation ability, so you can call someone out for some foul heresy, and it's basically the same as Spirit Leech, but it's on a 90-second cooldown, and it does indeed have unlimited charges, so definitely some good stuff. So the Vampire Counts, it's going to be a little bit tougher to make this work against them, since Manfred von Karstein, as you guys know, is really known for his Winds of Magic and can pretty much just spam Invocation of Nehek all game, but he probably will reach his healing cap, relatively quickly, and if we want to, we can then do a hard switch and cast the next Final Transmutation on like a Vargulf and use the Accusations to pull down these single target, very powerful units. So hopefully that'll work out. For the rest of our army, we have some Outriders, 2 groups of Knights of the Blazing Sun to cycle charge infantry, and then also some Demogryph Knights with halberds. In the back, we do have a light infantry corps. I mean, they're pretty elite by Empire standards, but we have 3 greatswords as well as some Free Company militia. So our general strategy is to just harass with Witch Hunter, cycle charge his infantry, really take out these Crypt Ghouls, get some good value out of our Outriders over here, and kind of delay the infantry fight for as long as we can so we can maximize the efficiency of our accusations here. So for my opponent, he does have some Hex Race in the forest, definitely some spooky, scary stuff. Front line of Crypt Ghouls, I think. Let's go ahead and check. So he has Crypt Ghouls, and these guys are typically very good against state troops. And a lot of Empire players like to go very heavy on state troops and then invest heavily in Cav and things like that, so they can be a pretty good choice. And they apply poison, so a little bit of, these guys are going to be doing the poison and non-armor piercing damage, though they will just get massacred by greatswords. Let's see, they have 40 weapon strength, with only 4 of that being armor piercing, so these guys are terrible against armor. And on top of that, he does have 3 Vargulfs? 2 or 3? Is it 3? Yeah, so he has 3 of those. So this can be a very heavy-duty, like, hero gooning type strategy. If you just get, like, 3 Vargulfs hunting, like, an enemy lord, they have 80 speed, great mass. They can definitely really, really bully people. And of course, Manfred, what does he have? So he's Fate of Buna, Invocation of Nehek, and Raise Dead. So I'm surprised there's no Spirit Leech, but definitely some spooky stuff going on over here. So without further ado, guys, let's get this show on the road. So initially, I'm coming in with the Final Transmutation. I get an Outrider Volley, so the volley does some pretty good damage. It looks like it took him down about 15%, but here comes the Final Transmutation. So check this out, and I was so sad. I should have been much more patient before I really played my hand, because I had these 2 Witch Hunters. So had I been able to layer an Accusation on top of that and that Gunfire, he might have gone down there or gotten really, really low to the point of crumbling. You can see he's at 8 leadership right now, so he's going to run away, and just imagine if that was a faction that didn't have healing. That would just be absolutely devastating. So Manfred's going to be running off into the forest here, and in the front, I'm preparing a Cav charge, so I do charge in my Knights of the Blazing Sun. They're going to be running right into these Crypt Ghouls, who I think are weak to fire. No, they're not, actually. That would have been really cool. But the Knights of the Blazing Sun coming in with full chub right here, and they do take out, wow, 10 models, like, instantly, and also do a bunch of HP damage. But the one thing I forgot to really take into account is that these things do have poison, so they're going to slow down my Knights of the Blazing Sun to 54 speed. The Crypt Ghouls have 38, so they're not slow, and that's going to allow the Vargulf and some of these other units to get some pretty good value. I do the same thing with the Demogryph Knights over here, but you can see he's going to respond with the Vargulf and different things like that. So definitely got some decent value right out of the gates, but my opponent should be able to retaliate with these Vargulfs and get a little bit of HP damage. In the meantime, he does get a really nice ambush out of the forest, so I didn't see these Hex Rays. They were actually hidden here, and I assume this was most of his army because of these very expensive Vargulfs. So I'm going to be pulling back here and trying to get my Outriders to safety. And I should have charged in my other group of the Knights of the Blazing Sun and left the Demogryph Knights back. It was a little bit of a micro mistake on my part, but ultimately they should be able to get away. A lot of HP damage coming in, and my opponent just keeps dragging them back in with the AI there. So right now, this Vargulf is going to be advancing. I have Knights of the Blazing Sun, and it is weak to fire, so they should do some extra damage. And you can see my Witch Hunters are taking some pot shots, accusing this thing of heresy. Not that it cares that much, I'm sure, but still a lot of damage going down. And the bonus fire coming in, and Vargulfs only have 40 armor, so the high DPS, low AP units like Knights of the Blazing Sun are really, really going to melt this guy. So we get a good surround, and you can just see the circle fire going down, just doing massive damage. Another accusation being laid on there, and it looks like my opponent is going to be summoning some zombies. So that's definitely tough. It's going to pin my Knights of the Blazing Sun. So there's zombies, there's poison, there's just all kinds of stuff going on here. And you can see this other Vargulf's going to be laying a bit of a whooping on these guys. So he's pretty hot in pursuit, and I keep, charging with my Demogryph Knights and my Knights of the Blazing Sun to try and slow him up and allow my Outriders to get away. And you can see Balthazar Gelt is on the hunt. He's basically just following Manfred around, just waiting to get another final transmutation. But you can see Manfred healed up pretty nicely. In the overcasted final transmutation you guys saw, it's very strong, but it does cost like 28 winds of magic when you overcast it. So you can probably only get like 2 off, or 3 if you're lucky, over the course of a game. So in the back here, these Knights of the Blazing Sun just trying to tie things up, and you can see my Outriders just pouring into this Vargulf, really trying to take out those armor-piercing units, because that will allow my infantry in the back, who I've basically just been keeping in reserve to generate some pretty good value. So the Witch Hunters are going to kite and fight, and they do have the 360 shot, so you can see they turn and shoot as they're running, which is very useful. So they're going to be kind of poking at this Vargulf, which I'm really just trying with all my might to drag down. Knights of the Blazing Sun going to be charging back in, but I'm getting a little bit caught up here, which is tough. But finally, this thing's about to go down. And it looks like Balthazar Gelt was casting something. I'm not sure what it was. It might have been a final transmutation on something, or maybe it was just the Staff of Valons going off. So Gelt getting in there is just the hero of his people, the patriarch. So he's going to be jumping in on this Vargulf, which is crumbling. Well, I guess it's at 1 leadership, so I don't know why. Do they crumble at less than, or when they're close to that? Maybe it's just going negative right now. Not sure. Anyways, has about 2,000 HP, and you can see the Witch Hunters and these Outriders are just pouring all this heavy firepower. And this is going to be pretty good for me. The Greatswords are going to charge in and intercept these Crypt Ghouls, and this is going to be an absolute massacre. I also get the Demogryph Knights coming in to just pin them down. So I noticed they were making a dash for these Outriders, so I really wanted to pin them into the Greatswords. And Greatswords with their anti-infantry and their very heavy armor of 95, which did get changed. If I'm not mistaken, they used to have only 90 armor. So I'm able to kind of get those guys on wrap, and honestly, one group of Greatswords could probably take a couple Crypt Ghouls, no problem. So pulling my Outriders back, just repositioning them, but it's getting a little bit dicey over here. So some of my cav forces that I had defending and kind of, keeping my opponent busy got crumbled. You can see my Knights of the Blazing Sun are out of commission, so now the Witch Hunters are exposed, and this was very sloppy play. I should have ran the Witch Hunters back into my infantry, so I had some support, but now they're isolated in open field, and my opponent has done a pretty good job of capitalizing here. So another accusation going down, and I did get, what is it called? Final transmutation on Manfred von Karstein over here, so he's down to about, very, very low, only 1,300 HP. But it's looking good in regards to taking down these large entities. You can see the bounce power is a little bit in my favor. This one Vargulf is really low. It does get the Invocation of Nehek, but it's definitely not in the best shape here. And you can see these Knights of the Blazing Sun going in for the final thrust with their fire damage, but my opponent is able to screen with some zombies. But the Outriders here, not doing the most damage to these Hex Rays, and this definitely sucks losing these Witch Hunters. So that was a huge, huge folly not running back to my forces there. This one's doing an okay job trying to fight down the Vargulf, but once the Vargulf gets its clutches on the Witch Hunter, and you can see this Necromancer is going to be coming to help out as well. So I do drop an accusation on the Hex Race, and I believe it does magic damage, so it should be able to do some pretty good work, very similar to like a Spirit Leech type effect. So the Demogryph Knights in the back are just trying to hold these Crypt Ghouls down because they're trying to chase my Free Company Militia, and I did get a couple volleys on Manfred. Of course, he's just using the Master of the Black Arts and healing up very effectively. So if we look in the pits, you can see the Greatswords are just monster mashing these Crypt Ghouls. I mean, 60 kills here. These ones are at 61, just making short work of all these chaff units. Obviously, my opponent did invest very heavily in Vargulfs and Manfred and stuff like that, so he's really putting a lot of its credence on these things. So right now, this is one of the first times that you're probably, first and only time you're ever going to see Balthazar Gelt actually just chasing down Manfred. So Manfred is having to run, which is so hilarious. So Balthazar Gelt's just going to be screening him out while I try and secure everything here. The Witch Hunters are pretty much offline, so you can see this one is getting feasted on by some Crypt Ghouls. And if I'm not mistaken, I think the other one just gets pushed off the map before he goes down. So at least he'll live to fight another day. These Outriders right here just pouring fire into the Vargulfs, trying to take out these very powerful monsters. And I need to kill these because Vargulfs are very good against armored units. So if they're allowed to just sit on top of my Greatswords and things like that, it's going to be, it's not going to be a good sign for these guys. So the Demogryph Knights in the back are helping to clear up the Crypt Ghouls. Free Company Militia are kind of a nice utility unit. They have pretty good combat stats in their own right. They can deal with Fellbats and things like that, and that's mainly why I brought them. So still trying to, outmaneuver these Hex Race in the back. He did end up chasing my blob, so I decided to split into 3 directions. Definitely a good idea if you're, just running all in one. He's going to be getting the value of chasing 3 units. So you need to split him up. So I keep these Outriders right here. I run this group away, but I got a little bit lazy there with my micro, and he was able to catch me for a moment, but you can see I get away before much damage is done. Over here, this one group is just going to be kiting, scooting and shooting and taking out some of these Crypt Ghouls, and the mighty Balthazar Gelt popping these Staff of Valons. I'm probably going to be able to get one more final transmutation over the course of this game. So if we take an overarching look here, you can see the Greatswords are just munching up these troops. So there's some Crypt Ghouls left here, and it looks like there's a group of 58 right here chasing my guys down, but I don't want to be wasting my ammunition. Although over here, a very solid situation for me. My Outriders, I decided to just turn and try and pick off Manfred and get as much damage as I could, but I do get caught by these chill guys. or hex race, whatever. They're not the chill guys. Chill guys would have been pretty spooky here because it would have slowed these guys down. But I got some shots on Manfred von Karstein. He's at about 700 HP, but a Vargulf just finished chasing off my Witch Hunter, so him coming into the battle is going to be tough. And you can see he gets a pretty good little terror out there, but Manfred, I think, overcasted. So he got that invocation of Nehek off, and I think it only healed him, and he was trying to get these two groups, so definitely a pretty tough little situation. But it looks like Manfred's healing up to about 1,000 HP. So as far as the infantry fight goes, it's still pretty even. The balance of power was teetering in my favor, but it has come back to the middle a little bit with my Witch Hunters being pushed off the battlefield. So you can see my Greatswords and other troops here are going to be cleaning up these Crypticals here. I do have these Free Company Militia online, which is nice. And the Outriders are just kind of weaving and bobbing here, trying to get away from these Crypticals. And I do try and intercept them with the Greatswords, but my opponent, realizing they're in a bit of a bad situation, is just going to kite me out. I do get some good shots here. They're critical binding. Balthazar Gelt's on the hunt. But I have a lot of stuff left, but he still has some power. He has these Vargulfs, he has these Hex Race, and Manfred is looks like he does have the Master of the Black Arts going off, so he should have a little bit more Winds of Magic. But this is the final battle. So the Supreme Patriarch Balthazar Gelt versus Manfred von Karstein for the fate of Middle-earth is going to be fighting here. But he does have these Crypt Ghouls coming around, and I did try and screen them with the Greatswords, but they're obviously quite a bit quicker. So in the front, he's just going to charge into my Greatswords. We're not immune to Psychology, and these Hex Rays do cause fear and terror, so a bit of a scary situation. So I'm just going to be shooting in, trying to pick off this Vargulf, and I do get a final transmutation of Balthazar Gelt coming in on Quicksilver to hunt down Manfred. Manfred's getting a little bit low. You can see those ticks going off. Balthazar Gelt and Quicksilver get a really nice attack on his back there, and we're just trying our best to pick him off, because if we can pick him off, the low leadership of these Vampire Counts monsters isn't going to be as much of an issue. So Balthazar Gelt just going for the gold here, and you can see he's so low. He has about 500 HP. He's crumbling, and the balance of power is coming back into my favor. Another X factor though here. These Crypt Ghouls are coming from the far side. They have 60 models here. These ones have 48, so they're going to be making their way back into the battlefield. But my Outriders are in okay shape, and they have decent ammunition. And you could see up in the air the Free Company Militia rallying in the fourth quarter. I really just need to kill Manfred, because this fight could, my Greatswords are starting to buckle a little bit. Thankfully, I do have a healthy group coming from the pits over here, and you can see they have 82 models, 142 kills against Crypt Ghouls, definitely paying their dues. But the Hex Rays have that physical resist aura. They're going to be tough to kill. So I really want to just kill Manfred, get him on leadership. And you can see he's finally crumbling in the face of Balthazar Gelt as he's chased back into the forest over here. And he's probably going to go down here 60, 57, 46, 35, and he stabilizes his leadership. But it looks like he's still going to go down. Man, he's sitting at 13 HP. And pretty much all that needs to happen is Balthazar Gelt just needs to smile at him with his golden mask. And that should be enough to send him back here once I get closer. So the fight's underway still, pretty darn close. You can see these Greatswords and this other group are just fighting, trying their best to clear out the chaff. But this Vargulf's still in pretty good shape. And it looks like Manfred can't handle the sight of Balthazar Gelt riding towards him on Quicksilver. So he does just fall and die in the forest here. So at this point, I was still a little bit nervous because this Vargulf was in good health, but I get Balthazar in. The Greatswords are able to clear up the chaff, and from there, a lot of his units are crumbling. And we're able to just kind of take him out through attrition and rear charging with Outriders and a little bit of Overwatch there. So man, what a wild fight that was, and GG. That was a really stressful one for sure. But I think this build is pretty good for the Empire. I mean, that was a pretty solid build from the Vampire Counts over there. You can see all these Crypt Ghouls. I mean, they usually do pretty well against state troops, but I think bringing the Greatswords was strong. But the Greatswords could have been very heavily punished by like Fate of Buna and things like that. But the fact that we were putting so much pressure on Manfred, he wasn't really able to come into the battle as much and perform, and he was constantly fleeing and having to spend all of his Winds of Magic simply to stay alive. So I think putting that perpetual pressure with Balthazar Gelt and the Witch Hunters and just kind of our Outriders shooting him and outmaneuvering the Vampire Counts troops was really, really clutch. And just in case like they go with Hounds, that's the reason why you bring the Knights of the Blazing Sun. And I think had I been a little bit more conservative with the Knights of the Blazing Sun, instead of like cycle charging initially and letting them take casualties, just be patient and use them once the infantry fight starts. So I think that would have been just a lot better rather than using them so aggressively and trying to slow down the pace of the battle. Although it did buy more time for my Witch Hunters and Balthazar to do a little bit more work. So well played to my opponent. Arc in the Black. Look forward to running into you again on ladder, and hopefully you guys enjoyed the Geltening. The Geltening is back, and it's here to stay. So hopefully they don't nerf the Gelt. I mean, honestly, all jokes aside, I mean, I think Final Transmutation costing 28 Winds of Magic, it's pretty powerful. But I mean, Fate of Buna is like a one-button delete ability, right? For like 22 on like very powerful units. And factions with healing have some pretty good counterplay, and Balthazar, of course, is very weak himself. So if he gets caught in any compromising positions, Pravenoth Rama, Nets, he's pretty easy to take down. But I don't know. I mean, I feel like it did get nerfed, and at 28 Winds of Magic with that overcost, that's a huge investment. And keep in mind, by bringing that, you're not getting a Lore of Life, you're not getting dynamic net play. There's so many things you're missing out on, so it's a bit of give and take. But Accusation, I can see that being something maybe they change and put like a cap on. But really, I mean, the Witch Hunters, if they're caught, they really can get dragged into the muck really quickly. So I don't know how to feel about that. I know they did cap the Rune of Wrath and Ruin, which I don't know if that was necessary per se, but I don't know. It is what it is. So hopefully you guys enjoyed seeing this game, and I got some goodies coming soon, 2v2 tournament, all kinds of madness going on. So thanks again for watching, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed, and we'll see you guys next time.